Diet. So I want to talk about today the most important aspects of your diet, and this is something that I really don't talk about, but I feel like I've done a lot of research and I have a lot of useful input, and it's something that is just an easy way to really change your life. Maybe that sounds a bit too profound, but it can really, really change how you function, especially considering how terrible the average diet is. It's an easy thing to work on. So the first thing I want to lead in with is just this story of this, like, one day I was eating bread, and I used to eat a lot of bread like a year ago, and I had 5 slices of toast, brown toast, because I thought it was healthy, with milk, and I'd noticed I was just becoming very energetic, and then within an hour, suddenly I just felt very tired. I was put in this, like, really loving mood, and then I just became really tired and depressed. And I thought, damn, that is really, really strange. And I think that's probably one of the last times I ate bread. Because I realized something, which is that brown bread, they talk about fiber and glycemic indexes. Brown bread has the same glycemic index as white bread. And what that means is the whole sugar, insulin spiking thing is just as bad with brown bread as it is with white bread. And the reason is that brown bread is just bread. It's milled. The flour's been milled into powder. And what that means is it will be absorbed just as quickly as white bread into your bloodstream. And so I was just like, wow, this is really, really, really interesting. And I didn't realize there's a lot of things about diet which I didn't really know. And to be honest, this wasn't even the most surprising one, because a lot of people know that bread is a processed food. You know your bread package has like 50 ingredients on it. It's probably not good for you anyway. But yeah, a lot of us still think brown bread is like some amazing miracle food. It's not. And this kind of is, so the first point is natural is 90% of a good diet. And that is the most important thing you can take away from this video. Natural foods, unprocessed foods, if you can eat a lot of those, then you have a good diet. Avoid all the processed food. Avoid things which you know are bad. Juice, soda, dessert foods, just highly processed meals, fast food. If you just avoid those things, you can get down 90% of what a good diet actually is. And it really is that simple. Obviously, it's hard because you can't have that luxury of just instantly created food. You need to cook yourself, and there's a lot of difficulty, but it is 90% of a good diet. And this kind of leads me on to my next point, which is more crazy things that none of us knew about diet. So I used to think, probably like you, that saturated fat is terrible for you. And I had this image of it clogging up my arteries and blocking my heart, and just, I was like, no, so whenever I ate red meat or anything, I was like, no, it has to be lean, I'd literally rip off the fat and throw it away. And this is just one of the stupidest things I've ever done. Because we had this lecture last year in university, and the guy was telling us about fats. And he told us that the guy who proved saturated fat causes heart disease and all else, he actually was paid $10 million by Crisco, which is one of the top vegetable oil companies in the USA. And this just sounds like crazy talk, but I found this on PubMed, which is where, research articles are published. This isn't some conspiracy thing. He was paid 10 million at that time, which is a lot of money. And his studies were flawed. He left out a bunch of countries and things to make it seem like his hypothesis was correct, which is that vegetable oil is unsaturated, so it's good for you, but saturated fat, like those in meat, will clog up your arteries and cause heart disease. And the craziest part is not only that, but we all believe this now. It's everywhere. Everyone just knows saturated fat is bad for you. It's not even a question. I thought I knew that. And I didn't realize that image of the saturated fat blocking my heart was just implanted in me by years of what we were told. And it's genuinely not true. I think I'll try and... This probably sounds like the most outrageous claim that I'm going to make, so I'll try and put some sort of link to a study. But this is real stuff. I was taught this in a lecture. And yeah, so that's that. Vegetable oil, and this is another kind of point which is connected. Vegetable oil in plastic containers is a poison because A, it's refined heavily with solvents, which are already terrible for you, and that means it's been stripped of all of its nutrition and antioxidants. The next thing is that you probably maybe are someone who drinks water out of glass because you think that plastic is bad for you. Let me tell you something. Water is charged. Plastic is neutral. They don't really mix that well. Fat and oils are neutral as well, and so is plastic. They mix really well. So if you're somebody who's scared of your water getting mixed with plastic, you should be terrified of that vegetable oil that you use to cook. It is mixed with the plastic that it's packaged in. It's mixed so well, probably dozens of times more than with your water. And so you should be very, very, very wary of that. Those things are terrible for you. Extra virgin olive oil, animal fat, these are the best things to really cook with and consume. And so the next kind of point that I want to get into is soy and milk, because I feel like there's a lot of hype around these things. Are they good for you? Are they bad for you? I did a bunch of research and, I can't find the exact numbers, so you probably shouldn't take my word on this. But I tried to find out, okay, how many of these plant estrogens are there? How much estrogen is in soy? How much of it could probably be absorbed into your body? And then how much estrogen does your average body make a day? And, that figure is roughly similar between men and women. So getting the data is pretty easy on that. But I think I found out that if you had 100 grams of some sort of soy product, it would raise your estrogen level by 50%. And again, that could be totally wrong because I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure what I concluded from researching all of those numbers was, wow, soy actually can significantly raise the level of estrogen in your blood. And so why would you consume it? It's not even a natural food, really. All soy products are heavily processed. All your protein, your soya protein, it's all processed anyway, so you really shouldn't be eating it anyway because of the other points. And if it's gonna harm you just even more with this other problem, then just avoid it. As for milk, there doesn't really seem to be that many problems with it. They say that there are certain hormones in milk, and the only one that can really be active in your body is something called IGF-1, which is kind of like a growth hormone. And when I researched this, I think I with the same calculation, a few hundred mils of milk, how much would that raise the concentration in your blood by? And I think it was something like less than 0.1%. So probably not significantly harmful to you. And, there's already so much variation between people in their IGF-1 levels. So probably okay on milk. Milk is also very nutritious. It's full of different nutrients. People have been consuming it for thousands of years, so it's probably all right. And so that's my take on those two things. Again, do your own research, but the issue is you have to be thorough because this data is really, I remember it took me a long time to find out all of these figures. It's actually not easy to obtain this. I think I will try and find the link for the PubMed thing about vegetable oil because that just sounds so unbelievable. I really do need to show you that one. And yeah, the next point of good diet is, this is kind of two nutrients which I think are very neglected. I think one of them not really anymore, which is vitamin D. I think everyone started to catch on that the whole avoid the sun thing like a vampire is harming everyone. Everybody's vitamin D deficient now, and everyone kind of knows this. So especially in countries like the UK here where there's no sun for essentially 6 months, you are very screwed without vitamin D pills. And if you just avoid the sun when it's summertime, then you're an even more screwed of a situation because you're essentially not getting any vitamin D ever. And so that's a major problem. The sun, it feels good to be in the sun, it feels nice when the sun's out. It's just one of those things, every organism lives in the sun. And it is very counterintuitive advice to say just avoid the sun. We're not vampires, we're not nocturnal. So that's kind of one that everyone's catching on to. The next thing is vitamin A. And I think this is something that nobody's really talked about. And personally, when so vitamin A can be in sort of orange things like carrots as beta carotene, and it can also be in certain types of meat like liver, which is like the ready-made form. And what I notice is when I have vitamin A, like I have a bunch of carrots or I have liver, this dry skin on my hands always goes away the next day. It's really, really interesting. A lot like this patchy white dry skin that I have, it just disappears. And it just made me think like, wow, vitamin A is hard to obtain. There are not many foods that contain it. And who's really eating carrots and liver? No one. So, I'm sure that if proper studies were done, they would find that probably a lot of people are deficient in vitamin A. And I think some do already find that there is a lot of subclinical deficiency of vitamin A. So not enough to require medical attention, but still causing impacts. And so this is probably one of the next things that people will start catching on to, because, it really does make a difference how often you get sick, your immunity. That's really where vitamin A plays its part. But I mean, it's obviously not just that, it's with everything, because these vitamins have huge widespread effects. So that's probably another one you want to consider. And so if you're looking for things to do, eat some carrots, have your vitamin D pills or get some sunlight, and avoid soy, and avoid vegetable oil, especially in plastic, as though it's a poison, because it is a poison. It is essentially a poison. And get this whole idea that saturated fat is bad for you out of your head, because animal fat is probably one of the best things for you. It's nutritious, it's healthy, it's not even inflammatory, unlike vegetable oils, which contain loads of omega-6. So, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. It's quite different to the content I normally make. Hopefully it's appealing. It's quite an interesting thing, diet. And I feel like I have a lot of research that I've done and I want to share, and things that I've learned. So yeah, if this is fun, if this is good, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.